The protagonist of our story descended from the celestial realm to Earth on a mission. Although he has lost most of his power, he is still capable of copying techniques and using internal energy in a way no one else can. Will he succeed in his mission? And what obstacles will he face along the way? That's what we'll discover in today's story. The story begins with our hero, Sun Wukong, overwhelmed by longing for the days of his arduous journey west in search of Buddhist scriptures. The scene opens with a colossal battle in the heavens between the army of celestial beings and the legions of demons. Amidst the chaos, the Monkey King Sun Wukong appears, famed across the heavens for his unparalleled strength. He was invincible, and the gods often relied on him to confront the fiercest enemies. There he is now, fighting at the heart of the battle with his golden glimmering magical staff. He also recalls the companions who stood by him during his journey, including the weeping child Tang Sanzang, known as the monk Samjiang, a man of unwavering honesty, the silent white dragon who guarded Samjiang with quiet devotion, the trouble-prone yet kind-hearted and beloved Zhu Bajie, and Xiao Wujing, known for his calm demeanor, though at times he stirred unease. Finally, Wukong admits that he himself was never ordinary. Unable to hide his ferocity, he bared his fangs to the world without shame. When he recalls the days with his companions, they seem like stories meant only for fireside tales. We then shift to another scene, where Wukong sits with his companions around a fire in the desert at night. Tang sits beside him and tells him that their meeting was no coincidence, but rather fate arranged by Buddha, and he urges him not to bear the weight of the world alone, offering to share it with his teacher, Tang. He places a hand on Wukong's shoulder and says he doesn't see him as a mere disciple, but as a close friend as well, adding that the two of them walk the same path. Yet Wukong doesn't view their relationship so simply. He removes his hand and tells him he's deluded if he believes himself a teacher, for deep down Wukong knows his rank surpasses Samjiang's, and that he cannot serve him as a master. Still, Wukong feels their bond ran deeper, as he considered them true friends, though those memories now date back over 3 centuries. We then return to the heavenly realm, where Wukong believed he would finally find peace after attaining Buddhahood. He is given the title, Great Sage Equal to Heaven, but is shocked when he hears news of Samjiang's soul vanishing. He questions the woman who brought him this news, troubled by a sense of dread. She is Kashiti Garba, the one known as the Lady of 1,000 Hands and 1,000 Eyes, and she tells him that Samjiang's name has disappeared from the celestial registry and is no longer present in the underworld's book of life and death. She adds that the last trace of his soul was found in Anhui province in the human world, in a place known as the Namgung clan. Wukong grows angry, sensing that her words are leading to a request for him to descend to the mortal realm in search of Samjiang's soul. He confronts her, accusing her of enslaving him for the past 300 years without knowing how weary and exhausted he had become, and bluntly tells her to find someone else. Kashiti Garba warns that the descent into the lower world is full of peril, but he doesn't believe her, doubting anything in the human realm could pose a threat to the heavens, and accuses her of lying to entrap him in this mission. He adds that all demons of the underworld have been exterminated, and even the 7 great saints have vanished. So, who else could possibly be a threat? She replies, "There is no greater threat than humans." Wukong falls silent for a moment, unwilling to believe what he just heard, then mocks her, saying she's finally gone mad after thousands of years serving Buddha as a maid and handmaiden, adding that the world must have changed a great deal in that time, which angers her. Yet she does not interrupt him. Instead, she continues explaining the danger posed by humans, affirming that Buddha set strict laws dividing the realms, and that descending into the lower world would strip Wukong of most of his divine powers. She tells him she chose him for a specific reason, and asks whether he truly doesn't see himself as different from the others. She tells him that even if most of his celestial powers are sealed in the lower world, it wouldn't matter, as he can still rely on his demonic energy, Yoryok, and no one would be able to stand in his way. At that moment, Wukong unleashes his power, stirred by her words, and lets out a wicked laugh before asking her whether she still sees him as the same monkey she once knew. As he prepares to strike her, he declares that he will never again allow her, or anyone, to chain him down, and he charges toward her with all his strength, throwing a punch brimming with energy, but she blocks it effortlessly with her hands, without even flinching. Wukong is shocked by the difference in power, realizing he can't even get close to her. This brings back an old tale, when Wukong once tried to escape Buddha's control by reaching the edge of the world, far from the Buddha's influence. Seeing his resistance to Buddha's will, Kshitigarbha asks him if he intends to repeat what he once did, and flee to the ends of the earth. Then with ease, she pushes him back and reminds him that he knows full well, no matter where he goes, he remains within the palm of Buddha's hand. Suddenly, countless hands appear around him from every direction, closing in like a flower folding in on itself. Kshitigarbha then declares, by Buddha's decree, that the great sage Sun Wukong shall be sent to the world of martial arts. Wukong feels deeply unsettled, for he knows he cannot defy a direct decree from Buddha. And in the very next moment, he senses himself falling. He opens his eyes slowly, trying to process what just happened, and sees 2 people sitting nearby. One of them says he thought he'd get rich when he caught a wanderer in the mountains, adding that he hadn't expected to be captured by a group called Bisiokwa Moon. It turns out Wukong and the 2 others are imprisoned and chained. The same man adds he regrets even more trying to steal from that group's warehouse. Wukong looks around and realizes he's inside a cell. He glances at the 2 men in front of him, sensing a strange energy radiating from them, one he never felt in the heavenly realm. The 2 men turn toward him as soon as they notice him awake and looking their way. Then Wukong understands he has truly fallen into the lower world. He soon calms himself, looking down at the shackles on his wrists, and breaks them easily, accepting his fate, knowing he has no choice but to carry out Kshitigarbha's request. He says he must find Samjang's soul as quickly as possible if he wishes to return to the heavenly realm. He walks toward the cell door, stunning the two men, who call him a monster after seeing him shatter the restraints in an instant. He opens the cell bars effortlessly, leaving the nearby prisoners in awe of his brute strength. Just before stepping out of the cell, he notices an aura behind him. He turns toward the two fellow inmates and says he can see the world of mind through his eyes, adding that this world is beyond human perception. He then senses a hidden connection between him and the bearded man sitting before him, something that in Buddhism is called the thread of fate. He smiles at him and says this bond is a remnant from their past lives. Yet he still cannot fully grasp the bearded man's intentions or what he wants from him. Regardless, he frees both the bearded man and his short companion, feeling that one of them might be a guide sent by Kshitigarbha to help him find Samjang's soul. He tells them to follow him, as he will help them escape the prison. They are overjoyed to hear this and thank him, believing he must be a mighty warrior. As they step out of the cell, a guard spots them and immediately draws his weapon, demanding to know who they are and how they escaped. Wukong warns him, saying he doesn't like to resort to violence, and urges him to back off before he changes his mind. But the guard pays no heed, calling him a half-blooded freak and warning him not to move any closer, or else he'll strike. Wukong's fury intensifies when he hears the insult. In a flash, he steps forward and grabs the guard by the head, then hurls him outward, using his body to break open the path toward the prison building's exit. Soon, a crowd gathers in the sect's courtyard after noticing an escape attempt. The sect's warriors are stunned by the damage to their headquarters, and even the prisoners who are following Wukong cannot comprehend how he caused such destruction. But the bearded man calmly replies that they don't need to understand anything, they just need to follow in silence. Wukong asks the bearded man if he knows where the Namgung clan is. The man replies that of course he does, adding that the Namgung clan is renowned as the greatest sword-wielding clan in the world, and is famous in many other domains as well. He's surprised when Wukong tells him he'll be leading the way, since he admitted he knows where the clan is. Wukong warns him that if he refuses, he'll punch him right then and there. The bearded man, flustered, quickly agrees to guide him. A group of sect warriors gather in front of them. One of them asks, "Who do you think you are, destroying our sect like this?" Wukong points at the speaker and asks if he's the leader here. The man replies that he is Li Sangyap, known as the Fierce Wolf and head of the Seoka clan. Wukong tells him he's taking the bearded man and the short one with him, and in return, he'll overlook being thrown into prison. Sangyap is stunned by Wukong's manner, as if he were the Jade Emperor himself, and asks what gives him the confidence to speak that way. Wukong is pleased by the question, saying it's only right to introduce himself when someone is curious. He then begins his introduction, declaring himself to be the stone monkey born of heaven and shaped by earth, the handsome monkey king, and continues to the astonishment of all present, stating that he is also the ruler of the heavens, the greatest star, and the saint of this world. He ends his grand proclamation with excitement. "I am none other than the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong." Everyone around him is stunned by the sheer exaggeration of his self-introduction, while Wukong raises his head toward the sky as if no one in existence could match him. The clan warriors can't hold back their laughter after hearing his words, which only fuels Wukong's anger as he sees them mocking him. One warrior steps forward, assuming Wukong must be mad from his bizarre introduction, and his clan master encourages him from behind to finish him off and end his nonsense. The warrior draws his sword and presses it against Wukong's neck, threatening to return him to his cell, or he'll slice his head off. But Wukong has had enough of the insults. He slaps the warrior across the face, sending him flying back into the other clan fighters, and the force of the crash knocks several of them to the ground. Everyone is stunned by what they just witnessed. Even the clan master couldn't tell when or how Wukong had moved. Feeling his pride wounded before his own clan, he orders them to attack Wukong, even if it means killing him. Without hesitation, the warriors all charge at once. Wukong tells them they've made a grave mistake today by crossing him, saying he might forgive those who offend his parents, but never those who insult him personally. One of the warriors appears in front of him, channeling energy into his sword, then swings it toward Wukong's neck. With his uniquely keen eyes, Wukong notices a strange energy radiating from the weapon, and charges into the warriors himself, delivering strikes left and right. None of them are able to block or counter his attacks, overwhelmed by his incredible speed and agility. Wukong is surprised when he sees the warriors beginning to emit a strange aura, noticing that this energy greatly increases their speed and power beyond anything they displayed before. Over time, Wukong realizes that the strange energy he sensed from the beginning was nothing more than remnants of demonic power that had left its mark on the mortal world. Over the years, that energy was purified and merged with the essence of nature, allowing humans, without even knowing it, to absorb and store it within their bodies, refining and cultivating it. He later learns that humans refer to it as internal energy. He lunges at one of the warriors, slamming his knee into the fighter's face, sending him flying through the air and crashing into a group of other fighters. He then mocks them, saying that humans have some amusing tricks, but to him, it's nothing more than child's play. He turns his attention to the sect leader and his guards, slapping the leader left and right until his teeth fall out from the blows, then closes the pressure points across his body, and proceeds to take down the rest of the guards with ease. The bearded man and his short companion cannot believe the power they're witnessing from Wukong. One by one, the guards and warriors of the sect fall without offering any real resistance. Wukong glances around to check if anyone is still standing, but sees no one. only himself, with all the warriors either wounded or lying dead on the ground. He crouches next to one of them and takes whatever money he finds, telling him not to worry, that he'll put it to good use. The bearded man and his friend watch him in shock, amazed by how skilled he is at stealing, even more than they are. While rummaging through the loot around him, something catches his eye, a box that had fallen from the sect leader, revealing a mysterious item. The moment his eyes land on the object, he recognizes it instantly, though he doesn't understand how it ended up here. But before he can think more, Sangyap interrupts him, threatening to cut off his hand if he doesn't put it back. Wukong asks him if he even knows what it is he's holding, then demands to know where he got the item. Sangyap's expression shifts suddenly, and Wukong steps closer, his killing intent now fully awakened, warning him that if he doesn't speak the truth, he'll kill him too. Trembling, Sangyap replies that he knows nothing about it, only that it appeared before him one day and someone had offered a reward for it. Wukong asks about the reward, and Sangyap replies that whoever finds the item will be granted a massive fortune. Wukong presses him for the man's identity and where the meeting is to take place. Sangyap tells him it's supposed to happen at the Yonghuan Tavern, and the man's name is Sahi Aol Cholgui. The bearded man is visibly shocked upon hearing the name, prompting Wukong to ask if he knows him. The man explains that Sahi is notorious for his cruelty and has killed dozens of innocent people. He adds that Sahi also murdered a member of the Namgung clan and escaped, and the clan has been hunting him ever since, but hasn't been able to catch him. Wukong falls silent for a moment, thinking, then declares that he's decided to head for Yonghuan Tavern. The bearded man is surprised by the change of plan and asks why they're not heading straight for the Namgung clan instead. Wukong replies that showing up empty-handed is pointless. It's better to bring Sahi back as a prisoner, which would make the clan welcome them more eagerly. He then turns to them, saying that humans suffer through many hardships, and so the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong, cannot simply stand by while evil spreads freely across the land. Despite his words, the two men still find it hard to take him seriously, thinking he's either arrogant because of his strength, or perhaps just completely insane. The three of them set off toward the tavern, passing through a city bustling with people and merchants from every corner. It quickly becomes clear that all eyes are drawn to Wukong and his companions for some unknown reason. The short man notices that people are watching them, while the bearded one feels embarrassed under their gaze, especially with Wukong's unusual and foreign appearance. Curious about the crowd, Wukong comments that it must be because life has improved since the yokai monsters vanished from this world. They finally arrive at Yonghuan Tavern, take a seat at a table, and are soon approached by a server who asks if they plan to order any food. Before ordering food, Wukong asks the server if he has seen a suspicious person among the guests. The server seems surprised by the question, so Wukong clarifies, asking if he saw someone who came in alone, with a mysterious air about him. The server appears to recall someone matching the description but hesitates to speak. Realizing he's on the right track, Wukong gives him a threatening glare that forces cooperation. Terrified, the server understands he has no choice, so Wukong tells him to go and inform the man that they've brought the goods from the Sioka clan, and if he's interested, he should come to them himself. He then tosses the server some money, asking him to bring food and drink as well. Moments later, a spread of various dishes and drinks is laid out before them. Wukong downs a cup of liquor in one go, and at that moment, he feels that everything he has faced so far was part of a predetermined fate, from the disappearance of Samjiang's soul, to the appearance of the heavenly fragment in the lower world, to the humans chasing after it. He's convinced that if he can discover how the fragment ended up here, he might find a clue to the missing soul's whereabouts. Noticing the anxious looks on the bearded man and his companion, Wukong asks if they're afraid. The bearded man replies that every story ever told about Sahi is terrifying. He adds that many Muram Alliance masters were killed trying to capture him, and some say the number exceeds 10. He continues, explaining that Sahi was declared a public enemy of the Muram Alliance 5 years ago, and no one has been able to capture him since. He even killed 5 beggars from the Jaibang Guild and escaped. He's known for slaughtering dozens of innocent civilians. But Wukong thinks those sent after him were simply too weak, and that all they've heard are rumors. He then asks if either of them has ever seen Sahi with their own eyes. Neither answers, yet the fear remains etched on their faces. At that moment, their conversation is interrupted by a voice from within the tavern. Wukong turns toward the source of the sound, and in walks a man saying, "Fools who rushed at me like you, ended up drenched in blood, their heads severed." But Wukong pays him no attention at all, as if he hadn't heard a word. This man is revealed to be Sahi, the wanted criminal of the Muram Alliance. The bearded man and his short companion are shocked to see him face to face for the first time, while Wukong smirks arrogantly, telling him that all his so-called skills are nothing more than child's play to him. And thus, Wukong and his companions come face to face with Sahi, the man wanted by the Muram Alliance. Sahi isn't impressed by Wukong's haughty attitude and tells them he knows they're not really from the Seoka clan. Wukong replies that such matters are none of his concern. Sahi asks if he has the item. Wukong replies by asking if he means the sword fragment. Sahi wonders if Wukong is trying to bargain with him, and Wukong replies that there's no need to rush. They can discuss it over drinks. He pours Sahi a drink and warns him it's better to sit down before he's forced to do so Wukong's way. With his unique vision, Wukong sees a red thread between him and Sahi, a sign of karmic fate linking old enemies in past lives. He pulls the sword fragment from his clothes. Noticing Sahi's clear look of surprise, from his reaction, Wukong realizes he truly knows nothing about it, so he asks if someone is using him to obtain it. Wukong then smirks and tells him that whoever is using him like a puppet must be quite powerful, and wonders aloud who that could be. He then advises him to relax his tense expression and says that all of this was merely a test, and now he's certain Sahi is nothing special. Sahi is infuriated by his words. Unable to contain his rage, he charges at Wukong, threatening to kill him for his sharp tongue, slamming a strike that splits the table in two. Panic spreads through the tavern as the guests realize a fight has broken out, each one scrambling to save themselves, afraid of getting caught in the crossfire. Wukong mocks Sahi, saying he doesn't understand why people like him, who don't know their own pitiful worth, raise their swords before they even speak. Sahi grows even more enraged at the mockery and lunges at him, trying repeatedly to stab Wukong with his sword, but he can't even touch him. Wukong parries every strike with astonishing ease and finesse. The short man assumes Wukong is blocking the blade with his bare hands, but the bearded man corrects him, saying that's impossible. He caught a glimpse of something like a piece of metal in Wukong's hand during the fight. The short one recalls the ancient artifact Wukong found, and is stunned to realize that this tiny fragment is capable of deflecting massive sword strikes. Wukong remains calm and unbothered during the entire fight, showing no signs of fatigue. In fact, he doesn't even try to counterattack. Sahi starts to feel uneasy, realizing that his opponent is fending off every strike without using any recognizable martial arts form, moving carelessly, even lazily, and yet not once has he landed a hit. A terrifying thought crosses his mind. What if his opponent is a grandmaster of the supreme martial arts, and he simply didn't know? He looks at Wukong and sees him dodging with a smile. And in that smile, Sahi realizes Wukong is merely toying with him. Feeling he has no hope of victory through normal means, Sahi quickly retreats, deciding his only option is to gather all his internal energy and unleash it in a single, decisive blow. He begins charging his energy at full speed, preparing to deliver the most powerful strike he knows. Wukong doesn't interrupt. Instead, he tells him that now he remembers him from a past life. Sahi dashes forward with everything he's got, aiming to end the fight with one final strike, but is shocked when Wukong tells him that in a former life, he was known as the Seven-Knotted Mountain Serpent. Wukong grabs the arm Sahi used to launch the attack, effortlessly, and blocks his most powerful blow without moving an inch. Sahi is frozen in shock and terror, realizing his opponent didn't even try to dodge. He stopped the full-force attack simply by catching his arm. Wukong tells him that he once thought there was a deeper connection between them from a past life, but in the end, it was nothing more than a passing thread, and everything he had done until now was to discover the truth of their link. He then pulls Sahi toward him and delivers a crushing blow to his head. Sahi screams in agony, feeling as if his skull has been split in two. Wukong grabs his aching head, then throws him with great force into the wall, shattering it, and the tavern begins to collapse from the impact. Wukong tells him that if he feels he's about to die, it would be wise to start praying to Buddha, and to pray for Wukong as well, since he has already attained enlightenment and become a Buddha himself. Sahi hears him saying that he is far too merciful to kill a soul that is begging for mercy. The bearded man is stunned to see Sahi, the one they called the Crimson Iron Phantom, who even the Muram Alliance failed to defeat, reduced to such a state by Wukong, while the short man can't hide his admiration for Wukong's overwhelming might. Understanding from his words that survival means begging for mercy, Sahi tries to plead to Buddha, but Wukong doesn't give him the chance, and lands a punch straight to his jaw, continuing to hit him until his jaw breaks completely, making it impossible for him to speak another prayer, sending him flying with the force of the blow. Wukong steps toward him, seeing not a shred of courage left in Sahi, and wonders why he couldn't hold his ground for a little longer. He adds that if Sahi had killed innocents in a previous life and died for it, he should have spent this life reflecting on his sins and seeking redemption, and asks, what's the point of being reborn only to start killing again? Then he looks him in the eyes and asks directly, why did you return to kill the innocent? Sahi has no answer, and fumbles helplessly with his broken jaw, unable to understand why Wukong is still hitting him, even though he was the one who told him to pray to Buddha for mercy. Sahi feels like he's truly on the brink of death, and turns to Wukong, once again begging in the name of Buddha, and this time Wukong spares him. Then Sahi begins praying in the name of Kshitigarbha, but Wukong can't bear to hear her name on his lips, and immediately strikes him on the head again. The bearded man and his companion are confused as to why Wukong keeps hitting him, so Wukong tells them he tried to be patient, but he then explains that Sahi is rotten to the core, and that a dog's tail never straightens. Anyone who truly wants to be spared should beg while on their knees. Frustrated by Sahi, Wukong looks around for a drink to help him forget what just happened. The bearded man curiously asks why praying to Kshitigarbha was such a mistake in particular. As Wukong turns his back, Sahi sees it as a chance to escape, and flees the tavern at full speed. The bearded man quickly calls out to warn Wukong, who turns around but sees no trace of Sahi anywhere inside the tavern. Wukong runs his hand through his hair, puzzled by how Sahi had started with a menacing, deep voice to strike fear, only to crumble after a few punches. He plucks a hair from his head, saying Sahi isn't quite as dumb as he thought, then blows on the strand and tells them the smartest thing Sahi did was escape at just the right time. He suggests they head to another tavern to finish their meal in peace. The bearded man is surprised and asks if they're really letting Sahi get away for good. The scene cuts to a boat sailing across open waters, carrying 2 people. Sahi sits nervously, dreading the thought of returning to his master without the desired item. He mutters that he doesn't like this solution, but sees no choice but to seek help from Honmadu. He adds that, despite the man's foolish appearance, he possesses reliable skills, and together they could defeat Wukong easily. He swears he'll get his revenge soon. Meanwhile, Wukong is also aboard a boat on the same sea, sensing someone talking about him behind his back. The bearded man approaches and asks if he let Sahi escape on purpose, to which Wukong replies that he did, because of the item Sahi had asked about, whose true nature remains unknown. The bearded man doesn't understand what's so special about an old piece that seems worthless, but Wukong explains that even Sahi himself didn't know what it was. He adds that if someone sent him to retrieve it, Sahi will surely report back, and from there, they can follow the trail. The bearded man realizes Wukong plans to go after whoever is pulling Sahi's strings. He then asks how Wukong knew Sahi would flee by sea. Wukong simply says he relies on what he sees, without further explanation. When the bearded man looks puzzled, Wukong elaborates by recalling the moment he blew on a strand of his hair, and explains that despite losing most of his celestial power after descending to the lower world, he can still use minor tricks, like hair magic. He had transformed that hair into a mosquito, and it's now secretly tracking Sahi's movements. He tells them to trust him, for he is the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. The bearded man grows irritated by that odd title Wukong keeps repeating, and Wukong immediately realizes he's mocking him internally. Still, he feels that from the time they've spent together, he started to recognize who the man truly was in a previous life, and smiles at him warmly, a smile hinting at a deep bond from the past. The bearded man awkwardly looks away and changes the subject, saying they should hurry, since Sahi is a dangerous threat to mankind, and surely others are hunting him as well. Wukong replies with unshakable confidence that there's no need to worry. Even if someone tries to interfere with his plan, they won't be able to stop him. The scene shifts to a region known as the home of the greatest sword clan under the heavens, the Namgung clan. Their reputation is unmatched. They have always ranked among the 5 most powerful clans, and they represent the pinnacle of righteous martial arts. However, their popularity among the common folk isn't the best, for during the Great War between good and evil, their methods against evil forces were so harsh that even their allies within the righteous world began to fear them. We transition into the Namgung clan's estate, where the doors of a private bath open, and a young woman sits in front of a mirror, calmly brushing her hair, as she tells herself that her clan, the Namgung clan, is in need of a complete transformation. It is soon revealed that this woman is Manhwa, head of the law enforcement hall within the Namgung clan, and she says their clan must not draw swords recklessly, like other sects such as Shaolin or Wudang, but instead act with justice, kindness, and sometimes even mercy, even toward their enemies. She adds that the clan leader considers this line of thinking to be hypocritical and unworthy of their name. She then notes that in just 1 month, the young heirs of the 5 great clans will gather at Namgung's estate for the Dragon and Phoenix Assembly, and Manhwa believes her clan is obligated to present a new image of themselves. Manhwa leaves her quarters, only to be stopped by a staff member calling her name, informing her that the clan leader has summoned the heads of the halls and that they must respond immediately. Manhwa is surprised by the urgent call and wonders if something serious has happened within the clan. The scene shifts to the clan's central courtyard, where warriors and elders have gathered, awaiting word from the clan leader about the reason behind the sudden assembly. Then appears the clan leader, Namgung Jinbaek, who announces that an emergency report has arrived from the Myungui Hall. He informs them that Sahi, the Crimson Iron Phantom, has been sighted in Anhui province. He then reminds them of their legacy, that when the evil sects united to threaten the martial world, it was the Namgung clan who stood up and fought first. And they didn't fight for themselves, he says, but for their fathers and sons, their mothers and daughters. He declares that Sahi, the one who killed a member of their clan, has reappeared before them. This time things will be different. Even the clan elders will join the hunt to eliminate him once and for all. He asks them to examine the bamboo scrolls given to them, then commands them to head to their assigned locations and do whatever it takes to capture Sahi, by any means necessary, and asks if his orders are understood. They respond in unison, "Yes, sir," and the clan leader sets out with his warriors to hunt down the public enemy, Sahi. Manhwa watches the departure of the warriors and sees in this movement a precious opportunity. If they succeed in capturing the Crimson Iron Phantom and announce it afterward, it would not only change how the world views their clan, but also enhance their prestige as hosts of the Dragon and Phoenix Assembly. With the strongest warriors of the Namgung clan joining the mission, she believes no one will be able to stand in their way. The scene returns to Sahi aboard a boat in open waters, heading toward Honmadu for help in defeating Wukong and retrieving the heavenly fragment in his possession. As he crosses the river, another boat intercepts him, carrying 2 warriors, later revealed to be from the Namgung clan, assigned to track and capture Sahi if possible. The one rowing is Gyuk Namgung, and his companion is Namgung Seon. Seon communicates telepathically with Gyuk, saying he's certain the man on that boat is the Crimson Iron Phantom, and asks if they should launch a signal flare to inform the clan leader and elders. Gyuk replies that it's better to attempt capture first. Launching a flare might alert a slippery target like Sahi, giving him the chance to vanish without a trace. Seon asks if they are allowed to kill him if necessary. Gyuk replies that the law enforcement hall ordered them to take him alive, as he's to be delivered to the Murim Alliance for trial, but warns that if Sahi resists violently, then they have permission to kill him. They row faster in pursuit of Sahi's boat, declaring that the word fear has no place in their vocabulary when it comes to cleansing the stain that threatens the name of the Namgung clan. Suddenly, a strange sound is heard from within the boat, and Seon turns, puzzled, unable to identify its source. He calls out to Gyuk, saying that water is starting to seep into the boat, and Seon asks how that could have happened. Gyuk grows tense, realizing he spoke too loudly, and quickly turns to check whether Sahi has noticed them. Unfortunately, the noise was enough to draw Sahi's attention. Sahi spots the blue-sheathed swords, wrapped with matching ribbons, and from their distinct design, he recognizes them as weapons of the Namgung clan, though he doesn't understand how they managed to find him here. Seon sees that Sahi has noticed them and is now speeding up his escape. Gyuk says that such damage to the boat could only be caused by a powerful strike, and adds that they chose this specific vessel because of its sturdiness, meaning someone must have pierced it using internal energy. He warns Seon that Sahi might not be alone and could have allies aiding him. They prepare for an imminent battle, confident that Sahi's escape doesn't matter, as the Namgung clan has surrounded him from all sides, and eventually, he will be captured. Seon says it's enough to capture Sahi's followers. That's the only way they'll make him answer for his crimes, and he infuses his sword with internal energy. Beside the boat, bubbles begin to rise from the water, and he realizes someone is hiding beneath the surface. So he slices through the water using his sword aura, aiming at the source of the bubbles. Meanwhile, Sahi can't believe that after barely escaping someone as powerful as Wukong, warriors from the Namgung clan are already on his trail. It's well known that even among the unrighteous sects, the Blood Demon clan is the most vicious, and they are related by blood to the Namgung family. Rumors even suggest that their clan leader tears open chests and eats hearts like dumplings, laughing hysterically while he drinks. Sahi senses someone else approaching, and quickly turns to see who else is after him. A boat cuts through the fog, carrying a man who speaks mockingly, asking if he's enjoying his boat ride. Sahi is stunned when he recognizes the voice. He can't believe someone reached him this fast. Though the fog still hides his face, that voice is etched into Sahi's memory. Back on the Namgung warrior's boat, Seon grabs the person hiding underwater, hauls him onto the deck, and demands to know where Sahi is headed, assuming he's one of Sahi's followers. But it turns out the man is none other than the short companion of Wukong, injured and bleeding from his shoulder, unable to answer, as he has no connection to Sahi at all. The two warriors are shocked when they suddenly feel something rushing toward them from beneath the boat. They immediately leap away to avoid the ambush, using their agility skills to land on the boat's deck. A mysterious figure emerges from the water in front of Bepsi, the short bearded man, who scolds him angrily, saying he told him he would move alone and doesn't understand why Bepsi followed him, especially after being caught and injured. Bepsi responds tearfully, complaining about the intense pain in his shoulder. The bearded man quickly stops the bleeding and orders him to stay put this time, then glares angrily at the Namgung warriors and tells his companion he'll get revenge on them. Seon charges his sword with internal energy and launches a direct strike at the bearded man. But Seon is shocked when the man effortlessly dodges the attack, and both warriors are stunned to realize they can no longer sense his presence, as if he had vanished completely. They notice his movements in the water are unnatural, and Gyuk suggests waiting until he's forced to surface for air. Seon explains that the source of internal energy lies in breath, and that the basic method of extracting natural energy is through inhaling it into the lungs. So the two warriors await the moment the man reappears to catch his breath. The bearded man swims with precision and anger through the water, furious over Bepsi's severe shoulder wound, and blames the Namgung warriors entirely for the situation. The scene rewinds slightly to Wukong's boat before all the previous events unfolded, where the bearded man is expressing his confusion about the thick fog surrounding them. He comments that nothing can be seen even an inch ahead, even if a tall flag were raised. No one would dare sail through such fog. He assumes Wukong has lost his mind for thinking he can find the Crimson Iron Phantom in a place like this, but he's quickly stunned when he sees that Wukong has already spotted the boat Sahi is escaping on. Wukong tells him there's another boat trailing behind Sahi's. Surprising the bearded man, he can't see anything through the dense fog, so he squints and tries to focus, and eventually does catch sight of a boat pursuing Sahi's. The bearded man realizes that Wukong doesn't just have sharp eyes, he's also a true master of martial arts, which explains how he was able to defeat someone as strong as the Crimson Iron Phantom. He asks Wukong if the second boat belongs to the Murim Alliance, and Wukong replies that he doubts it. If they were from the Alliance, there would be more than just two of them. Bepsi chimes in, saying the warriors on that boat have swords sheathed in blue with white ribbons, the distinctive emblem of the Namgung clan. Wukong is surprised, commenting that fate connects people in ways no one can predict. He never imagined his first encounter with the Namgung clan would be under such circumstances. The bearded man tells him that the Namgung clan holds a deep grudge against Sahi as well, and since they're planning to visit the clan eventually, it would be best to help them now in capturing him. Wukong gets the idea and tells the bearded man to go make some holes in one of the boats. The bearded man asks if he means Sahi's boat, to which Wukong replies, "Of course not. I mean the Namgung clan's boat." The bearded man protests, especially since the Namgung clan is actively trying to capture their sworn enemy. Wukong reassures him, saying he'll capture Sahi quickly and explain the misunderstanding to the clan afterward. All he needs to do now is poke a few holes in their boat. The bearded man grows tense and asks if Wukong has considered that the Namgung clan might kill him for this. But Wukong answers that they have no other choice. If he ends up stealing Sahi after they capture him, he'll become the clan's new enemy anyway. And in that case, he'll personally interrogate the Crimson Iron Phantom to uncover who his true superior is. Sahi's heart nearly stops from fear when he realizes the man approaching him is son Wukong. Wukong smirks wickedly at him, asking if he enjoyed the boat ride, then calls him the snake. He adds that he's sad Sahi left last time without even saying goodbye, saying he thought their bond ran deeper than that. At that moment, Sahi grabs the old man rowing the boat, threatening to slit his throat if Wukong doesn't back off immediately. But Wukong isn't surprised to see a hostage, and comments that Sahi is still the same coward he always was. Sahi knows Wukong is a martial arts master, nearly impossible to beat in direct combat, and he grows even more anxious when he sees Wukong simply nod at him, warning that if he makes one wrong move, the man he's holding will die. The old man starts crying in terror, begging Wukong to spare his life. But Wukong doesn't respond right away. Sahi is shocked when Wukong finally says, "Do you think this old man's fate is any concern of mine? If he dies, then that was what was written for him." The old man trembles even more upon hearing Wukong say, "The Book of Life and Death will record that his end came as a hostage in the hands of a snake." Wukong continues, saying the man's lifespan was calculated from the day of his birth to the very month, day, and second, and that death is inevitable for every human. There's no escaping it. Sahi grows extremely anxious. He had suspected that the hostage tactic wouldn't work easily on Wukong, but he never expected such a cold response. He had assumed Wukong belonged to the righteous sects, but now he begins to doubt it. After that reaction to the hostage ploy, he's now certain Wukong is not from the righteous side at all. Wukong tells him there's one more thing he forgot to mention. He hates the Book of Life and Death, and then leaps from the boat towards Sahi. Sahi can't react in time. Wukong's speed is terrifying, and he strikes, severing the arm that held the hostage. Sahi screams in agony, clutching his shoulder in a desperate attempt to stop the bleeding. Wukong tells him that he always believed it was unjust for someone to die just because a book said so. He adds that when he was a child, he erased all the names from the Book of Life and Death, then turns to the old man and asks him to listen carefully. He says what should be written in his book is, the old man lived to be 100 years old and died peacefully, surrounded by his family. The old man begins to cry, deeply moved by his words. Wukong asks him if he liked the ending he just wrote for him. Meanwhile, back on the other side, the Namgung warriors are still waiting for the bearded man to surface and take a breath. Seon remarks that breathing is essential to using internal energy, and he's just waiting for the right moment to strike. But suddenly, a powerful wave surges in front of Gyuk, throwing him off balance. Gyuk realizes the bearded man is trying to distract him by disturbing the water up front, so he can attack from behind. But Gyuk sees through it, thinking it's a trick fit only for amateurs, and immediately turns to strike behind him. In the next moment, however, the bearded man emerges from a completely different direction, and Gyuk is stunned to realize he fell for a double feint, masterfully executed underwater. The man grabs him from behind and covers his mouth to cut off his breath, then drags him back down into the depths. Meanwhile, Seon calls out for his brother, growing increasingly worried, and continues shouting until he dives back into the water to search for him. Back on the boat, Wukong stands tall, as Sahi screams in pain, blood pouring from his severed shoulder. He's in utter shock. He couldn't even kill an old man, which should have taken just a moment, and yet Wukong severed his arm in less time than that, covering the distance with nothing but his hand. Wukong feels disgusted by the blood covering his hand and tries to wipe it off. But as he focuses on the blood, memories begin to flood back. Memories of his time in the heavenly realm. He recalls how Kshitigarbha used to give him guidance, including a teaching that whenever he meets fools along his path, he should guide them to the right way. She once told him that was why Buddha granted him the title Victorious Fighting Buddha. Snapping back to the present, Wukong walks towards Sahi, remembering the task Buddha had entrusted to him, to guide the sinful ones in front of him. But he refuses to follow those teachings, and grabs Sahi by the throat, lifting him to eye level. He recalls that Buddhist doctrine forbids the killing of any soul, no matter the sin. But as he looks at Sahi, all of the man's crimes come rushing back, from the bearded man's story of him killing dozens of innocents, to the way he just threatened to slaughter the old man without a shred of humanity. Wukong feels it's been a long time since he last felt this overwhelming thirst for blood. He mutters that Kshitigarbha has abandoned him once more, leaving him alone on this path of suffering. And this time, he decides to act on his own. In a shocking moment, he snaps Sahi's neck, right in front of the stunned old man. Sahi drops to his knees, now nothing but a lifeless corpse. Wukong once again recalls Kshitigarbha's words about the sanctity of life in Buddhism, and angrily remarks, "Keep those words to yourself. I'll do as I please." He declares that he is no longer the victorious fighting Buddha, but has returned to being the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong, the one who once turned the heavenly realm upside down. A golden glint flashes in his eye, and his demonic energy begins to surge around him. He adds that souls who've committed grave sins are condemned to hell, or to repeat their lives endlessly until they atone, forced to live as lowly creatures, and sometimes even reborn as insects. At that moment, Wukong pulls out Sahi's soul, which manifests as a snake, grabbing it with his bare hand. He comments that if such beings show signs of repentance, they might be reborn as humans. But that's determined by a trial in the next world. He tells them that now they will witness what happens when evil souls are reincarnated as humans, how they continue to poison the world with their corruption. He adds that Sahi's soul doesn't even deserve to be tortured in hell for eternity. It doesn't even deserve to exist. Then, he begins to squeeze the soul, and crushes it in the name of Sun Wukong. Sahi's soul vanishes completely, shattered by Wukong's hand. Wukong glances in another direction, saying that in the past, there were those who tried to stop him. But now, no one dares to even think of standing against him. Suddenly, messengers from the underworld appear before him. Wukong addresses them. "Return to your master, King Yama, and tell him that Sun Wukong has dealt with the serpent as he saw fit." The messengers grow visibly uneasy, rattled by the realization that it's Wukong who's interfering with their duties. He scowls and shouts at them, "Why are you still standing in front of me? Leave, unless you have something else to do here." Wukong releases a surge of his demonic energy, causing the messengers to flee in fear without hesitation. But in doing so, he had spent a massive portion of his energy to erase Sahi's soul, and now feels an overwhelming heaviness in his body. He vomits blood from his mouth. Upon seeing the blood, a memory returns, something Kshitigarbha told him before his descent into the human realm. That Buddha divided the realms by strict laws, and that any being who descends to the human world is forced to lose most of their divine power. Wukong acknowledges that he's truly starting to feel how much of his strength has been sealed. Pain shoots through every part of his body, as if he's about to be torn apart, along with a deep, chilling cold spreading through his limbs, a sensation he hasn't felt in ages. Then suddenly he remembers something he forgot, the matter of the bearded man and Bepsi, whom he had sent to distract the Namgung warriors while he handled Sahi. On the other side, Gyuk emerges from the water after a long disappearance, and Sion anxiously asks if he's okay. Gyuk warns him, saying that the bearded man is strange. He moves underwater at speeds that defy logic. Sion grows tense upon hearing this, and begins recalling that there are certain aquatic creatures with mastery over underwater combat. Even martial arts masters can't fully utilize their strength underwater due to lack of oxygen. Sion warns his brother that their fight against the bearded man won't be as easy as they'd assumed. In the next instant, they both turn swiftly, sensing someone standing behind them, and there stands Wukong, asking them to cease fighting. Standing calmly above the corpse of the Crimson Iron Phantom, Sion demands to know who he is, barely able to believe his eyes when he sees Sahi's condition, asking if Wukong was the one who killed him. Wukong replies that it seems they too held a grudge against Sahi, and explains that the bearded man they were fighting had also been pursuing Sahi. But when they saw his boat next to Sahi's, they mistakenly assumed he was an ally. Sion asks Wukong if he's connected to the man still in the water. Wukong replies that the man is like a brother to him, then calls out to the bearded man, asking him to end the fight. The bearded man looks down at Bepsi, who's lying in a pool of blood, but doesn't answer right away. Meanwhile, Sion realizes, judging from the way Wukong defeated Sahi without anyone even noticing him move, that this man is no ordinary fighter, and that they should be extremely cautious in dealing with him. Wukong asks the bearded man to come aboard the boat with him, but the bearded man, filled with rage, refuses to stop fighting after what they did to his brother Bepsi. He tells Wukong not to interfere between them, even though Wukong himself was the one who gave the order in the first place. Wukong is surprised by his response, puzzled that he's rejecting his help, even though Wukong's plan was the reason Bepsi was hurt. He assures him that he'll take full responsibility for his friend, and will make sure he recovers completely. The bearded man replies that even so, he can't just stand by. If he doesn't get revenge for his brother now, he won't be able to look him in the eye when he wakes up. Wukong is caught off guard by this thief speaking of loyalty, and says to himself that he hasn't changed at all, still the same as ever. A wave of old memories begins to wash over him. The scene shifts to around 300 years ago, at the river Luosha, where Zhu Bajie, one of Wukong's old companions, is mockingly addressing him, asking if he plans to just stand there watching without doing anything. Then he introduces himself with flair. "I am Zhu Bajie, Grand Marshal of the Celestial River Navy, greater even than the useless Monkey King." This provokes Wukong, who becomes furious at the mockery, and grabs him by the neck. Samjiang intervenes, trying to separate them, and points out that, without Geobalgi, they wouldn't have been able to subdue the monster from the Luxia River. Back in the present, Wukong asks the bearded man to stop fighting, addressing him by the name Wu Jing. The man is taken aback upon hearing Wukong call him that, and asks how he knew the Buddhist name he was once known by during his time at the Shaolin sect. Wukong replies that he recognized him by his exceptional combat skills in the water, then adds that he knew him from a previous life, although Wu Jing doesn't quite understand what he means. Wukong helps him onto the boat, but Wu Jing sees him as nothing more than a madman. He asks again how Wukong knew his Buddhist name, and Wukong repeats that he already answered. He knew him from a past life. Wukong recalls the days of his struggles with his companions, and says he'll never forget his name as long as he lives. He describes Wu Jing as a close comrade through a difficult journey, a friend and dear brother. He then teases him by pinching his cheeks, remembering how he used to joke with him the same way, and attempts to do it again. But Wu Jing, just as he did in his past life, finds the teasing bothersome and asks Wukong to promise he will heal Pepsi and restore him to his former state. Eventually, everyone ceases fighting and boards the boat, setting off toward the Namgung family to report the capture and killing of Sahi, the iron-blooded ghost. Bored, Wukong asks Wu Jing why he doesn't just swim to the Namgung family instead of staying on the boat. Wu Jing responds by asking if Wukong thinks he's some kind of fish, to which Wukong says that he actually does look like one. Wu Jing replies that there's no way he resembles a fish, adding that even when he was a secular disciple in the Shaolin sect, there were many women who admired him and tried to get close. He nearly broke his vows. Surprised, Wukong asks what made those women like him, and Wu Jing tells him it was his good looks. Wukong warns him not to lie, or he'll be condemned, but Wu Jing remains confident in his charm. The Namgung warriors, watching Wukong and Wu Jing converse, remain wary of him after what he did to Sahi. Wukong tells Wu Jing he seems mentally unstable and ought to see a doctor soon. Noticing their stares, Wukong asks them if they've had enough of watching him. He points out that they've been observing him the whole time and wonders if they've discovered something about him he doesn't know. Sion tries to offer an explanation, but Wukong cuts him off, assuring them that he's not an enemy. Sion, nervously apologizing, admits that the Namgung clan has many enemies, and it's their duty to be cautious around strangers. Wukong responds that he's a forgiving man and understands their concerns, He then adds that, although what happened was just a misunderstanding, it was his younger brother Wu Jing who initiated the attack. Wu Jing, however, cannot bring himself to reveal that Wukong had ordered them to attack. Sion responds by expressing hope that they can all move on and start anew. Wukong tells them he admires the Namgung clan and believes fate has brought them together. He asks for permission to visit their clan, although Wu Jing can't remember ever saying he admired them. Communicating telepathically, Gyuk tells his brother that letting a man with an unknown identity enter their clan would be unwise. Sion replies that, although Wukong did kill their archenemy, the iron-blooded ghost, caution is still necessary. Wukong then asks if their silence means they're worried about his identity, noting how long they've taken to respond. Sion is stunned by Wukong's question, as it felt as though Wukong had somehow overheard their telepathic conversation. He quickly apologizes and explains that while he knows Wukong hasn't heard all the rumors circulating in the martial arts world, he has never encountered anyone quite like him. Wukong rises and tells them he understands their concern, and that the only solution is to introduce himself with complete clarity. This makes Wu Jing and Pepsi uneasy, knowing all too well that Wukong tends to present himself in an exaggerated and embarrassing manner. Wukong begins by saying he emerged from a stone beneath Mount Hyoju after it was shattered by a lightning strike. The warriors of the Namgung clan appear bewildered and suspect he may be insane. He continues, claiming that he emerged as a handsome monkey, covered in luxurious fur, with a roar that echoes across heaven and earth, born of the sky, sculpted from the ground. He is the great sage, equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. No one on the boat believes him, all assuming he's lost his mind, and they quietly resume their journey toward the Namgung clan. Several days later, they arrive at the Namgung clan in Anhui province. Standing before the clan's gates, Wukong tells his companions that even the Namgung clan opened its doors the moment they heard his name. Meanwhile, Gyuk and Sion relay to Lady Mowa what Wukong claimed, that he is the great sage on a journey to the west, or that he was sent by Kichvara to the human realm. Sion argues they shouldn't let him in, as he has clearly surpassed all known levels of madness. Mohua responds that since the iron-blooded ghost was killed by Wukong, his body must be transferred elsewhere, and the best option would be to allow Wukong entry. Still, they try to persuade her that Wukong is unpredictable and should be kept under watch in case he loses his temper. She replies while heading toward Wukong that it would be better for the clan leader himself to assess Wukong's capabilities. Lady Mowa welcomes Wukong to the Namgung clan and introduces herself as the head of the law enforcement hall. Wukong appears deeply surprised upon seeing her, showing a clear sense of fascination, as if fate had somehow linked their paths. He continues staring at her without responding to her greeting, leaving Mowa puzzled by his lingering gaze. When she asks how she should address him, he replies that he's pleased to meet her, and she may call him Mr. Wukong. Trying to recover from the awkward moment, he explains that he feels honored to be accepted as a guest of the Namgung clan, which he greatly admires, and that this admiration left him momentarily speechless. He goes on to say that, guided by fate, he single-handedly captured the iron-blooded ghost, the clan's archenemy, and hopes they will accept this offering from him. Mowa responds that the clan leader is expected to return the following day, and she's confident he'll be quite impressed by the gift, though perhaps a bit disappointed he wasn't the one to defeat Sai himself. The Namgung clan offers Wukong and his companions accommodations in one of the clan buildings. Inside one of the rooms, Wu Jing thanks Wukong for healing his friend Pepsi's wounds. He then asks how Wukong managed to treat such deep injuries, and Wukong replies that he learned medicine from spending time with someone who cried over the tiniest cuts, though Wu Jing doesn't realize who he's referring to. Wu Jing smiles and asks whether Wukong has taken a liking to Mohua. Wukong doesn't understand what prompted the question, so Wu Jing explains that his behavior toward her was odd and suspicious. Wu Jing continues, saying that Wukong was staring at her intently, smiling, and speaking with unusual gentleness. Then, in a teasing tone, Wu Jing warns that if Wukong keeps acting like a dog wagging its tail as if it needs to pee, women aren't likely to find him appealing. Wukong replies that he didn't come to the Namgung clan for romance, but in search of someone specific. Wu Jing wonders if that person might be the head of the law enforcement hall, and Wukong admits he's not sure yet. Then Wukong finds himself wondering if Mohua is actually Samjiang, and that reincarnation may alter one's gender, but what truly matters is the soul itself. Wu Jing interrupts Wukong's thoughts, asking for his permission, since they've completed the task and brought Wukong to the Namgung clan as he wished. He adds that he hopes to take his friend and return to Mount Haiyun the next morning. Wukong realizes there's no convincing him otherwise, so he asks him to join him one last time for a drink before parting ways. The two are later seen sitting together, sharing laughter and conversation. Wu Jing begins to tell his story, explaining that he was born and raised in a village that relied on fishing, and from a young age, he felt a deep connection to water. He continues, saying that one day he encountered a peculiar martial arts master who taught him a special fighting style, the art of transforming true water into energy, a technique that allows combat without the need to breathe. He adds that most martial arts rely on inner energy drawn from breathing, which surprises Wukong, who asks how such a style works without breath. Wu Jing laughs and says it's a secret he can't share. He then notes that his story isn't unlike any warrior's. His village was set ablaze by bandits, and he wandered between righteous and demonic sects during the war, until he eventually ended up at Shaolin. Trying to calm his nerves, Wu Jing drinks, hardly believing he's opened up so easily. He begins to suspect the alcohol might be the reason behind his unusual honesty. His first impression of Wukong had been that of a harsh man, yet in the end, Wukong saved and healed Pepsi. Looking at him now, Wu Jing feels an urge to stay by his side forever. realizing that all he said about leaving had been nothing more than a childish outburst. He offers Wukong a drink as a gesture of appreciation for the time they've spent together. They share another round, and Wu Jing finds himself wanting to grow even closer to Wukong. After a moment, Wu Jing asks him where he's really from. Wukong replies that he's from Mount Hyajo, but Wu Jing doesn't buy it and urges him to speak the truth, since they're going separate ways, and this might be their final conversation. Wukong insists he's telling the truth, and that Mount Hyajo really is his home. Wu Jing senses that Wukong is creating emotional distance, as though he isn't worthy of knowing anything personal about him. Wukong tells him that he's never lied to him, but Wu Jing doesn't believe it and walks away in anger. From his point of view, Wukong simply doesn't feel at ease with him and prefers not to be honest, so Wu Jing says he has no choice but to leave. This would be their final farewell. Wukong doesn't object to his departure, but just as Wu Jing starts to walk away, he hears Wukong's voice telling him to take care of himself after he leaves. Surprised, Wu Jing asks what he meant, and Wukong explains that with the iron-blooded ghost now dead, his followers will be looking for whoever was responsible. Since Wukong is inside the Namgung clan, they won't be able to reach him directly. Instead, their target would be those who were with him, Wu Jing and his friend. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Wu Jing says he wouldn't mind having breakfast with him the next morning, adding that he'll stay by his side until things settle down and everyone is safe. Wukong smiles, realizing Wu Jing had seen right through him. The following day, the scene shifts to the main hall of the Namgung clan, where Wukong is formally welcomed in the presence of the clan master, the elders, and all the key figures. The clan leader introduces himself as Jin Bayek, and once again Wukong is taken aback upon seeing him. To break the silence, Jin Bayek calls out to Wukong, who responds after a brief delay. Sion assumes his awkwardness is due to meeting the Namgung clan's leader for the first time. But Wukong is in a state of confusion. He had seen a thread of fate connecting him to Manhwa. Yet now, another thread seemed to emerge, one that links him to the clan master. He recalls what Kichvara once told him, that the last trace of Samjiang's soul was seen in Anhui province, near the Namgung clan. And so, Wukong finds himself torn between Manhwa and the clan master. Unable to determine which of them is truly Samjiang, Wukong leaves the main hall of the Namgung clan after the meeting that had been held to evaluate him, and to determine how they should deal with him now that he helped them capture their longtime enemy, the iron-blooded ghost. After Wukong's departure, clan leader Jin Bayek remains seated with the elders inside the hall and asks the senior members of the clan for their thoughts on Wukong's character. One elder responds that there's no real way to understand him, he is simply unreadable. Another group of elders remarks that Wukong spoke only briefly about his visit, mentioning his admiration for the clan and expressing his gratitude if they accepted him as a guest. They believe he had been sincere in his words. The first group counters that although Wukong spoke with a tone of arrogance and superiority, there was no sign of open disrespect in his behavior. Still, it was evident that he's not someone who follows the usual formalities expected when dealing with major clans like theirs. Another elder adds that they know nothing about his background, not his sect, his master, the martial arts he trained in, nor even the region he came from. Jin Bayek listens silently to all their doubts, until Manhwa speaks, saying that the issue isn't just in those uncertainties, there's something even more important. The contradiction in someone like Wukong being the one who defeated Sahi, the blood ghost. She adds that the strangest part is how she sensed no martial aura from him whatsoever, as if he were just an ordinary man. The rest of the elders appear to have felt the same, unable to comprehend how someone with no visible combat energy could defeat a foe like Sahi, who had haunted them for years. Sion had felt that way as well while accompanying Wukong. He had assumed Wukong was either an expert far beyond their understanding or had mastered an extraordinary technique for concealing his inner energy and skills. Jin Bayek surprised them all by admitting that even he hadn't sensed any sign of Wukong's internal energy. The council is shocked to learn that not even the strongest fighter in the clan had been able to gauge Wukong's strength. Confused and unsure of how to handle someone whose true power remained unknown, the elders struggle to reach a consensus. After a long silence and deep thought, Jin Bayek comes to a decision, and the entire council turns toward him to hear what he will say. The clan leader then declares that their decision is to welcome Wukong as a guest of the clan. Elsewhere, Wukong stands atop a mountain, looking down at the Namgung clan, contemplating the next steps now that he has reached the clan. His goal is to carry out the mission given to him by Kichvara and eventually return to the heavenly realm. He sets two clear objectives. The first is to locate the soul of Samjiang within the Namgung clan, and the second is to track the group searching for the celestial fragment. He believes the two goals may be linked, noting that the second will be easier, since the group will reveal themselves sooner or later during their search. The real challenge lies in tracing the soul of Samjiang. He still has no clue whose body now holds Samjiang's spirit. What Wukong hadn't anticipated was the sheer power humanity had attained. To him, their inner energy now rivals that of a powerful yokai, and he can barely believe humans have evolved this far since he last encountered them. He realizes that he can no longer afford to treat them lightly and must approach them with greater seriousness. He decides it is time to test his own strength firsthand. The scene shifts to the law enforcement hall office in the Namgung clan, where a pile of documents and tasks sits before Manhwa. Her maid asks if she plans to continue working late, and Manhwa replies with a somber tone that she has no other option but to stay up until she finishes everything that needs to be done. Manhwa says that ever since the war between the righteous and demonic sects ended, the clan's numbers have been at their lowest, and she's had to take on tasks that used to be handled by 3 or even 4 people besides her, not to mention her primary responsibilities. She adds that they can never predict when the next problem will arise, given the number of enemies who still bear grudges against their clan. And she states this is exactly why Jin Baek is considered a great leader in their eyes. We then return to clan leader Jin Baek as he finalizes his decision to host Wukong as a guest of the Namgung clan. However, he clarifies that his approval comes with conditions. When one of the elders asks what kind of conditions he means, Jin Baek replies that he intends to have Wukong assist them with tasks the clan cannot handle directly. He adds that these tasks would involve problems linked to their enemies, and he believes this plan has 3 main benefits. He elaborates, saying, first, issues requiring direct clan intervention will be resolved without giving their enemies any opportunity to retaliate openly. Second, if Wukong refuses, they will still treat him kindly for a few days as he wishes, and then send him on his way. Third, if he accepts, they'll be able to confirm whether he truly has a reason for staying, and as he carries out the missions, they'll observe the nature of his martial arts and eventually uncover his true identity. The elders express admiration for the brilliance of this plan, and with that, the clan leader brings the meeting on Wukong to a close. Standing by her office window, Manhwa remarks on her appreciation for the clan leader's ability to make bold decisions that would give anyone a headache to even consider. She believes his sharp instincts are perfectly suited to his role as the head of the Namgung clan. The next morning, Wukong stands in the Namgung clan's training grounds, ready to assess the state of his strength after falling from the heavens and losing most of his celestial power. He notes that his physical strength doesn't feel significantly altered, and he explains that he once possessed abilities like fire eyes and golden vision, which allowed him to see through illusions and catch glimpses of the truth. He also had an iron forehead, a copper skull, and a body that could not be harmed by swords or spears. He goes on to say that his fire eyes and golden vision have weakened, and now only allow him to see faint threads of fate and vaguely read people's emotions. But there's something else he wants to test, his yokai energy. So he releases that energy to find out whether it too was affected by his fall from the heavens, recalling what Kichvara once told him, that he was unlike the other celestial beings, and that even though most of his divine powers were sealed, he could still access his yokai energy in the human world. Wukong says that ever since he gave up his identity as a yokai to claim his place in the heavenly realm, he had stopped using this energy. But since returning to the human world, that energy has slowly begun to return to him. It's in that moment he understands why Kichvara had sent him back to the human world. And he states that if he must use yokai energy in battles against humans, then he'll have to call upon the strength of the great sage, equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. Then Wukong stops his test of yokai energy, convinced that he may actually be able to accomplish his mission using this power. Not because yokai energy is special on its own, but because it is he who wields it. He is the one who makes it exceptional. He adds that yokai energy doesn't belong to the heavenly realm. Spiritual powers, at their root, originate from the underworld. It's energy that once flowed in the realm of spirits. He wonders, where did humans get their internal energy from? He then explains that over time, the remaining yokai energy within the human world became refined, merged with nature, and was absorbed by humans to evolve their abilities. He continues saying that humans purified the energy that had leaked into the natural world, making it more refined and disciplined, and gave it the name internal energy, or inner force. Wukong concludes that human martial arts are ultimately rooted in yokai energy, combat techniques originally crafted through the use of that very force. He begins contemplating the idea of developing his own martial art, one based entirely on his yokai energy. A style that belongs to him alone, something that would set him apart from all others. He remains seated in the Namgung clan's training grounds until the sun begins to set, trying to recall all the martial techniques he has encountered since falling into the human realm. He also remembers how the inner energy flowed in each one, observed through his fire eyes and golden vision. He explains that uncontrolled energy flow is simply the movement of ki, and adds that learning to direct that flow with precision and willpower is what transforms energy into martial arts. He recalls Wu Jing's comment about how martial techniques depend entirely on breath to generate greater power. And Wukong remarks that breath is indeed the core of it all. It smooths out the flow of ki, making it the foundation of internal energy cultivation. He adds that some techniques don't rely on breathing, such as Wu Jing's water-to-true qi conversion method, which enabled him to fight underwater without drawing a breath. Unconsciously, instead of relying on hearing, touch, or even sight, Wu Jing focused entirely on controlling his own energy. Wukong decides to take the core of Wu Jing's underwater breathing technique as the foundation for his own martial art, one where he controls his yokai energy through sensation and sheer will. With exacting sensitivity, Wukong incorporates Wu Jing's ability to manage energy without relying on breath into his new technique. Yet he still finds the result unsatisfying, so he resolves to add another layer to it. He remembers the blood ghost's movements, ordinary in appearance, yet laced with deadly poison. What fascinated him was how the attacks came in short bursts, with sudden and unique surges of energy between pauses. Wukong decides to integrate this type of energy rhythm into the essence of the water-to-true qi conversion technique, clearly intending to merge it with the serpent soul energy of Sahi. He attempts to combine the flow of both energy types, seeking to merge their traits and form a new current containing the best of both. Had anyone witnessed what was happening in Wukong's mind at that moment, they would have been utterly shaken. For who in the long history of martial arts has dared to extract the best from different techniques to forge an entirely supreme new one? If Wukong succeeds, it could lead to the creation of what people refer to as the absolute supreme martial art. But despite the fact that many great masters have attempted this countless times, most have failed, resulting in the distortion of their training path and, ultimately, death. Wukong soon realizes that this challenge is far harder than he anticipated, as the two energy currents clash violently within his body. Most people at this stage begin to cough up blood, their vision dims, and they choke on unbearable pain until they collapse. Wukong knows this well, and even though blood has started to drip from his lips, he declares that what applies to others does not apply to him. In fact, he believes the pain, in his case, is something to savor. He remembers what Samjiang once told him, that his rage comes from the untamed evil spirit roaming within his body, and that he must protect himself from it. Samjiang had advised him to keep his focus steady, and to hesitate no more, for his foundation would remain firm no matter where he stood. Wukong recalls that advice, and slowly regains his calm, trying to refocus and search for an alternative solution. It is revealed that the greatest strength that allowed him to become the victorious Buddha and warrior was that he never hesitated. Instead, he always observed the situation carefully, planned his steps, and stood firm in his choices. His yokai energy begins flowing through his energy channels in a controlled, complex rhythm, sharpening his deadly instincts. The different energy currents continue to collide and intertwine repeatedly, though they still refuse to merge. Instead, they coexist in a delicate state of balance. For the first time in his life, Wukong's yokai energy begins flowing through all 12 meridians of his body, something he is not yet aware of. This mirrors what martial artists refer to as a complete qi cycle, and Wukong is content with the level of success he has achieved for now. We then shift to one of the Namgung clan's corridors, where Wu Jing is seen exploring the clan's buildings and the surrounding areas, commenting that he barely sees any clan members, and even the senior figures seem entirely absorbed in their training with unwavering focus. Meanwhile, Pepsi has almost fully recovered and is enjoying the food provided by the clan. As Wu Jing also enjoys the plentiful dishes before him, he jokes that he now understands why wanderers always try to become guests of the Namgung clan. In his view, one reason is the comfortable sleeping arrangements, along with food available at all hours and in endless variety. Wu Jing finds the place so comfortable that he imagines staying for life, though deep down he feels that the laziness he's fallen into is rather pitiful. He reminds himself that even if he was born among bandits, he's still a martial artist of the Jianghu. And even as a Shaolin outcast seeking redemption, he's trained and mastered many martial techniques throughout his life. He adds that when he was young, his dream was to become the world's strongest warrior. His hunger for power was greater than anyone else's at the time. But now it's only natural that age would start to weigh on him. He remembers how Wukong has been incredibly focused lately. Though his first impression of him was that of a lazy man, it's become clear that Wukong has been training constantly in the back courtyard. Wu Jing remarks that someone of Wukong's caliber naturally wouldn't neglect his training. As he finally makes his way to train again, after a long stretch of idleness, he hears Wukong calling his name. Wukong, with a smile, asks where he's off to. Wu Jing replies that he's headed to train, but something in Wukong's tone unsettles him. He can't tell if Wukong is teasing him or genuinely surprised. His voice carried conflicting emotions. After answering, Wu Jing tries to continue toward his training spot, only to realize Wukong is following him. He turns and asks why, and Wukong replies that he intends to train alongside him from now on. Wu Jing is caught off guard and asks if he doesn't mind being observed during practice. Wukong tells him he sees no problem with it. Wu Jing finds it strange. Training observation is usually only permitted between family or between a master and disciple, but he's not too shocked, knowing how eccentric Wukong can be. Wu Jing starts to get excited. He's about to witness Sun Wukong's martial arts firsthand, the very skills that made Sahi, the blood demon ghost, look like a joke. The two arrive at the Namgung clan's rear training grounds, and Wukong asks Wu Jing to draw his sword. Wu Jing is startled. He hadn't expected Wukong to challenge him. Wukong explains that the best way to see his martial skills is through live sparring. Wu Jing expresses his concern, but Wukong reassures him that there's nothing to fear, and asks whether Wu Jing truly thinks he plans to kill him. Still, Wu Jing doesn't feel at ease. His suspicion only grows, and he begins to believe Wukong truly intends to finish him off. Wu Jing doesn't refuse any further and draws his sword, preparing for the duel, but tension creeps in as he watches Wukong. Standing still, arms crossed, without taking any combat stance, despite being the one who proposed the duel in the first place. Wu Jing doesn't care whether Wukong is mocking him or not. After witnessing his strength firsthand, he knows he has to stay focused and cannot afford to underestimate him. He's once again surprised by Wukong's posture. Wukong mimics his stance exactly, showing no intention of using a weapon, and Wu Jing wonders if he shouldn't at least adopt a more appropriate form, since he'll be fighting unarmed. Wukong responds that there's no need to think too much. He'll allow him 10 attacks, uninterrupted. Although Wu Jing knows that in martial arts, a single move can determine the outcome, he doesn't reject the offer. Instead, he says Wukong will regret it. He may appear weaker, but he doesn't tolerate being looked down on. He launches his first strike, but Wukong dodges it with ease. Wu Jing notices that Wukong's evasive movements feel strange, almost like mirror copies of his own stance. He realizes that if he keeps attacking with the same pattern, he might land at least one hit. He keeps pressing forward, determined to connect even once, but Wukong continues to dodge every attack effortlessly and with smooth precision. Eventually, Wukong steps back, signaling that Wu Jing has used up all 10 allowed attacks. Wu Jing isn't surprised. He knows Wukong is an elite fighter and didn't even manage to tear his clothes. Now it's Wukong's turn to respond, and he shifts into a new stance. Wu Jing senses something odd about this form. There's a strange familiarity to it, as if he were seeing his own master through Wukong's movements. Wukong tells him that he can't hold back, since Wu Jing himself was serious from the beginning. The words make Wu Jing extremely nervous, realizing he may have made a huge mistake. We return to the Namgung clan's rear training grounds, where Wukong is still sparring with Wu Jing. He's now using only his hands to deflect Wu Jing's sword strikes. While Wu Jing continues trying to land a blow, Wukong evades each one with refined agility. Wu Jing is stunned when he realizes Wukong has shifted from swordplay to barehanded combat. What confuses him most is how he's using Wu Jing's own fighting technique, and why he's even imitating the Sowajin Qi style at all. He wonders if Wukong has actually surpassed him in using Sowajin Qi, especially as his movements continue to grow sharper and more precise. Wu Jing can hardly believe what's happening. From the moment Wukong started copying his style, he's now watching him master it right before his eyes. Wukong delivers a final blow to end the duel, and Wu Jing falls to the ground, pretending to be dead. Wukong remarks that he's finally figured out how to use the new technique he created and tells Wu Jing to stop acting. He barely tapped him. Wu Jing gets up and asks if Wukong really copied his martial art, and Wukong confirms that he did. Wu Jing is baffled, not just because Wukong learned the next steps, but because he grasped the essence of the style. He feels the duel gave him clarity on the purpose and full shape of Sowajin Qi. He wonders if he'll ever reach the level of mastery Wukong just displayed. Curious, he asks how Wukong managed to do it, but Wukong seems puzzled by the question. Wu Jing explains that Wukong used his martial art better than he did, even though he had only seen it once. Wukong tries to recall how he succeeded in mimicking it, and after thinking for a while, replies that the form just suited him when he tried it. Wu Jing gets irritated by that response, feeling as though Wukong is messing with him. Wukong returns once again to the mountain peak overlooking the Namgung clan, sitting there deep in thought about why he still hasn't succeeded in merging the two energy flows, despite several days of trying. Frustrated by his repeated failure, he wonders if he might truly be inferior to humans in the realm of martial arts. But it's clear that it's only natural for Sun Wukong not to have achieved it yet. Martial arts have evolved and transformed over countless centuries, refined and passed down by generations of brilliant minds, and that alone explains why completing a new technique in just 7 days would be nearly impossible. On top of that, attempting to fuse the essence of two distinct combat styles is no small task, even for someone like Sun Wukong. Still, no matter how unclear the path may be, Wukong knows he'll forge ahead sooner or later. He remarks that his way of fighting so far has mostly involved kicking, flailing his fists, and charging at enemies like a raging beast. But he observes that humans fight differently. Even with minimal ki, or the smallest movement of energy, they're able to maintain fixed forms and structured techniques. He adds that this is how humans manage to tame their wild energy and use it at will, unlike his own combat philosophy, which relies on unrestrained demonic energy. Therefore, he decides that he must master full control over his yokai energy before trying to integrate it with human combat forms and techniques. Wukong hopes to face more powerful fighters to test himself, but he says that before doing so, he must first deal with someone who's been secretly watching him for some time. He charges toward the source of the hidden presence at full speed, and soon arrives at a tree where a white bird is perched. He says the world may change and time may pass, but some things will always remain constant, like the existence of spirits. He then turns to face a white owl named Bi Miodong. Wang tries to escape Wukong's pursuit, but Wukong grabs him before he can even think of flying away. Annoyed by the escape attempt, Wukong demands to know who he is. Wang, flustered, asks for his name in return, and Wukong realizes from his reaction that this is still a young mountain spirit who only recently ascended. Wang becomes visibly nervous once he realizes he's standing before a demon. Wukong asks if he's ever heard of the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong, and Wang recalls stories from his childhood, told by the elders, mentioning that name. He then blurts out, "You mean that wild, crazy monkey?" Shocked to hear himself say it aloud, Wang watches Wukong grow furious. Wukong warns him that if he ever says that phrase aloud again, he'll cook him alive and eat him for lunch. Wang quickly apologizes and introduces himself as the regional earth god and mountain spirit of Mount Maryong. He nervously asks if Wukong needs anything, but Wukong warns him to show some respect. He was in the wrong for spying on him. Wang replies that it's part of his duty to sense powerful energies in the area and investigate their origin. But Wukong stares at him in a way that suggests he's already considering how to use him, which terrifies Wang, who pleads that he wouldn't taste good if eaten. Wukong then asks, since Wang is the earth god of the area, whether he's seen anything strange or unusual within the Namgung clan. Wang doesn't follow what he means, so Wukong clarifies that he's asking if there's been any noticeable spiritual activity within the clan. Wukong knows that ordinary humans can't perceive the disappearance or fading of spirits around them, but a mountain spirit can easily detect such changes, especially when the spirit in question is no ordinary one, but the powerful soul of the former Buddha, Samjiang. Wang remembers something and tells Wukong that, at one moment, he sensed a massive spiritual surge, like a storm, within the Namgung clan. Wukong asks for more details, wondering who received Samjiang's spirit, but Wang grows uneasy and says he remembers nothing more. Wukong can't believe that the regional deity remembers nothing about such a massive event, but suddenly he senses someone approaching them, and he turns in the direction of the incoming presence. As soon as Wang sees the figure, he immediately runs toward him. From the person's aura, Wukong senses a power equal to that of a great demon, though he remains unimpressed. The mysterious figure remarks that he didn't expect his dear Wang to have a guest, let alone that guest being Sun Wukong himself. Wukong notes that the man's aura is calm, yet overwhelming in depth. It becomes clear that this is none other than Namgung Jin Baek, the master of the Namgung clan. Wukong is surprised to learn that Jin Baek knows Wang, and the clan master explains that Wang is a spirit who has watched over this mountain for ages. Wukong grows even more curious when he realizes that Jin Baek knew Wang was a spiritual being. Wang replies that it's only natural. He's been around since Jin Baek's grandfather's time and was also close to his older brother. He adds that his form as a pure white owl is already a clear sign of his spiritual nature. Wukong is annoyed by Wang's arrogant expression now that his ally has arrived. He regrets not taking him out earlier. Jin Baek then asks why he's here at this particular time and place. Wukong feels that Jin Baek's gaze could pierce through steel, yet it doesn't scare him. In fact, it excites him. Dissatisfied with himself, he's eager to test his strength against stronger warriors. He steps closer, now standing face to face with the master of the greatest sword clan beneath the heavens, and replies that he merely came out here for a walk. Then he asks if that's a problem, clearly trying to provoke Jin Baek into a fight, eager to test his new technique. But at the last second, he changes his mind and walks past him, deciding this isn't the right moment for their battle. Wukong then says he has a question, and Jin Baek replies that he's open to answering it. Wukong asks why he agreed to host him as a guest, even though he clearly doesn't trust him and remains cautious. Jin Baek is surprised by his bluntness. He didn't expect such a direct question. He answers that Wukong gave him a strange sense of familiarity, as though they had met before. He asks if that might be the case, but Wukong replies that while Jin Baek may not see the thread of fate between them, his instincts alone helped him feel it. Wukong affirms that this is in fact their first actual meeting. Jin Baek responds that he doesn't care if Wukong has a past he wants to keep hidden. He has no right to pry into it. But he clearly sees that Wukong came to the clan with a purpose, and asks if he disagrees. Wukong responds honestly, saying he's at the Namgung clan because he's looking for someone. Jin Baek is taken aback and asks who this person is. Wukong replies that he doesn't know their name, or even what they look like. Jin Baek assumes he's speaking in riddles, but Wukong clarifies that he truly knows nothing, only that there's a connection between them. He adds that he has no choice in the matter since fate itself brought him here. To Jin Baek, Wukong's way of speaking resembles that of a wise monk, and he wonders if Wukong might be from the Shaolin sect. He concludes from their conversation that Wukong will need to stay in the clan for a while to find this person. He says he doesn't object, but notes that the clan lost many loved ones to spies during the Great War waged in the name of justice, and this has made them extremely cautious around outsiders. He goes on to say that if Wukong plans to remain with them, he'll have to earn their trust, and for that, there is one mission he must agree to. Wukong expresses his understanding of their position and agrees to take on the mission assigned to him. Jin Baek is surprised by his acceptance, especially since he hasn't even explained the nature of the task yet. But Wukong replies that he trusts him because of the strong connection he feels between them. This prompts Jin Baek to ask what he means, since Wukong himself had said this was their first meeting. Wukong simply smiles and says perhaps they were connected in a past life. Jin Baek stares at him, as if trying to read his intentions through his expression. Wukong tells him that even if Jin Baek isn't Samjiang, the bond between them feels just as strong as the one he shared with Balgi. If he can earn their trust while searching for traces of Samjiang's spirit within the Namgung clan, the clan master could prove to be a valuable ally in achieving that goal. He then glances toward Wang and says the story Wang was supposed to tell will have to wait for another time. We then shift to a new scene several days later on a bustling street in Anhui province. People on the street seem to be giving Wukong odd looks due to his appearance, which clearly marks him as a foreigner. Wukong asks Wu Jing if he visited the famous blacksmith shop in Anhui as requested. Wu Jing replies that he did, and that if Wukong goes down the alley ahead, he'll find the Yangha forge. He then asks why Wukong needs a blacksmith, and Wukong answers that he needs a weapon crafted for him. Wu Jing asks what kind of weapon he's after, and Wukong replies that he believes a staff would suit him best. He asks if Wu Jing knows the weapon Sun Wukong once held dear. Wu Jing replies that it was the golden magical staff, and assumes Wukong is still clinging to his wild tail. Wukong enters the forge and asks one of the blacksmiths if he can forge the heaviest iron staff possible. The blacksmith is taken aback by the request, surprised that he would ask for a staff instead of a spear or sword. He assumes Wukong must be of noble birth, but Wukong jokes that he knows he's handsome. Staring too long, though, is a little embarrassing. The blacksmith apologizes for his lack of manners. Wukong hands him a celestial fragment and asks him to melt it and wrap it around the end of the staff. The blacksmith is stunned by how light the piece feels, and tries to test its durability with a sword, only to be shocked when the blade shatters against it, despite its lightness. The thought that it might be meteorite iron suddenly strikes him. Wukong tells them that someone named Chang forged that piece from 7 stars, and confirms it's indeed made of meteorite iron, just as they suspected. He then asks if the Yangha forge is capable of producing the staff he needs. He promises that if they succeed, he'll bring them more meteorite iron, to coat the entire staff. All the blacksmiths are stunned by what he says. They know how rare meteorite iron is, even in the heavens, and can't believe he's requesting such a large quantity. Still, they don't get the sense that he's lying. Something in his tone feels genuine. The lead blacksmith assures him with confidence that he'll take on the task and do everything he can, and Wukong agrees, on the condition that they handle the precious material with care. Wu Jing is stunned to learn that the piece he thought was scrap metal is actually meteorite iron. He now understands why the iron-blooded ghost was obsessed with it, and says something this valuable should indeed be entrusted to the finest forge in the region, like Yanghe. Wukong replies that crafting a weapon is only part of the reason he came here. The other reason is that the Namgung clan asked him for a favor. Wu Jing is surprised and asks what kind of favor they requested from him. Wukong explains that the Yanghe forge had long been operated by the Namgung clan, and adds that after the Great War of Justice, the clan weakened, which led to them losing the forge to their rivals from the Cheonghyop clan. More importantly, he clarifies that the Cheonghyop clan has now formed an alliance with Hosung Gate, and what the Namgung clan wants from him is to help reclaim the forge and its blacksmiths before that alliance becomes deeply rooted. Wu Jing is surprised by how much information he's suddenly received, and says that Hosung Gate is known as one of the major sects, and an evil one at that. Even the 5 great families avoid dealing with them lightly. He adds that Hosung Gate seems to be trying to take control of the commercial sector of Anhui province and has a complicated history with the Namgung clan. He then asks why Wukong agreed to take on such a difficult request. Wu Jing tries to advise him, saying that if a hero like Wukong gets involved, the Namgung clan will say it was his personal decision and avoid taking any responsibility. He adds that it might earn Wukong the wrath of the Cheonghyop clan and possibly even Hosung Gate. Wukong smiles, realizing that Wu Jing is genuinely worried about him. Wu Jing then says they're in serious trouble and suggests they just run away together. But Wukong assures him not to worry. He'll handle everything, and tells him to come along, because he's buying him some noodles. Wu Jing responds by saying he'll have 2 bowls, and with that, Wukong knows the bait has been cast. Now it's just a matter of waiting. He remarks that all he needs to do now is wait and hold the fishing rod steady. Surprised, Wukong asks if Wu Jing really plans to eat 2 bowls of noodles. Wu Jing replies that he could actually eat 4 more as well. Wukong is stunned and jokingly asks if he might be Geobalgi, but Wu Jing doesn't understand the reference. Wu Jing then notices a beautiful woman entering the restaurant, and he immediately lights up, thanking her for visiting. A woman as lovely as her gracing. This place is a blessing, he says. But as she walks toward him, he grows nervous. When she asks why he's been staring at her, he denies it, saying he only glanced a few times. Wukong steps in and says her makeup looks great. She responds that she was trying to hide her identity, to which he replies that her plan clearly worked. His little brother didn't even recognize her. Wu Jing stares at her more closely and wonders aloud if she's the head of the Namgung clan's law enforcement hall. Manhwa asks him to lower his voice, reminding him that this entire area is under Cheonghyop control. Even the restaurant belongs to them. She then turns to Wukong and says she's heard that he's working alongside Namgung clan warriors, and asks why he's moving alone. Wukong replies that he acted with the clan's interests in mind. Manhwa tells him that the main family had laid out a plan he was supposed to follow. He responds that he knows the plan involved pushing him to the front lines and seizing the forge by force. Manhwa says that's true, but admits she doesn't think it's a good plan either. Wukong asks if she has a better suggestion. She replies that she doesn't, but mentions that while passing by the forge, she saw it operating and full of people. Wukong tells her that he also visited it earlier and placed a weapon order. Manhwa gets frustrated, saying it was a terrible time to do that, especially with his eye-catching appearance. Their conversation is cut short as a group of people enter the restaurant and head straight for them. Wukong says there's no need to explain everything. He'll make things clear through action. A group of warriors appears before them, and their leader addresses Wukong, saying he's heard that he possesses rare metals. He asks if Wukong would be willing to strike a deal, and Wukong responds with a grin, "The fish took the bait. Now it's time to pull the line."